So I can now expose a group of shameless Labour MPs who are trying to charity wash the fact that they voted to let thousands of vulnerable pensioners freeze to death this winter. They are Barry Gardner of Brent West, Margaret Mullane of Dagenham and Rainham, Frank McNally of Coatbridge and Bells Hill, Olivia Blake in Sheffield Hallam, Sarah Champion of Rotherham and Fabian Hamilton, Leeds North East. Also, Mark Seward, the MP for Leeds South West and Morley, Clive Betts of Sheffield South and Derek Twigg of Widnes and Halewood. Now, there are others, like Hilary Benn, who abstained on that vote, but all of them voted to take the winter fuel payment away from pensioners, despite the fact that Labour's own risk assessment said 4,000 people could die. They voted to consign people in their 80s and 90s to a miserable death this winter. They voted so that brave military veterans will be shivering in their living rooms. They voted so that people who need oxygen tanks to breathe might not be able to turn them on because their energy bills will be too high. But now I can reveal that they are trying to absolve themselves of this utter disgrace by being Age UK champions. Local residents were sent an email like this one saying, "I'm delighted to say that your MP, Mark Seward, is now an Age champion. It says that he'll be standing up for old people in Parliament, despite the fact that he voted for the stripping of the winter fuel payment." Now, one man raised this with Age UK, saying, "How can you let them try to cleanse their reputation like this?" So here's the response. Your MP voted for the change to the winter fuel payment. Although you might be disappointed by this, with a strong majority and the threat of losing the whip, some MPs felt that they had to vote with the government in order to stay in the party and therefore be able to influence policy change. Oh, hang on a minute. Where's your spine? Where's your morals? Apparently, they're definitely keeping the pressure on the Chancellor and the Treasury. Sorry, but what a load of rubbish. All right? Now, when you go to Age UK's website, the first thing you see is this, a petition to save the winter fuel payment for struggling pensioners. OK? Have those lily-livered Age champions sign that petition? How can they? How can they, when they voted for the cut? Now, we have been to Age UK to ask them how on earth they could allow various Labour MPs to try to absolve themselves for voting for something that will, frankly, kill the elderly. We have no reply. We've also been to Mark Seward MP to ask him whether or not he's taking the mickey with this. He hasn't replied either. Presumably, he's too busy trying and failing to be able to look himself in the mirror. This is charity washing. This is Orwellian, actually. Physically voting to essentially pass a death sentence on old people because you're too afraid of losing the party whip, but justifying it by saying, "Don't worry, I'm now an Age champion." Well, your elderly constituents needed you, and you failed them. In my view, you are weak and pathetic, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. The thing is, I don't think these MPs care about the elderly, but I know that you do. And that is why I've got a fundraiser for a different charity. It's called Friends of the Elderly, and we have a target of £260,000. And thanks to you, we have already got over 230 grand. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You can go to justgiving.com/page/save our seniors now to donate. Now, all of that money goes to Friends of the Elderly, so they can give grants to old people who are going to freeze in their own homes this winter, who can't pay utility bills, who can't afford to feed themselves, who can't afford a taxi to a doctor's appointment. That's where your money's going. Now, on Saturday, I will be climbing for an hour and a half to get to the top of a place called Stickle Tarn in the Lake District. And I'm going to plonk myself right in the middle of that freezing cold tarn and see how long I can last to raise awareness for our greatest generation who've been treated like dirt. It will be a proper challenge. In fact, having a look at the weather forecast, the wind chill factor at that tarn on Saturday is going to be -1. So it will be nippy. But unlike those MPs, I do really care. And I know that you really care too. And we're raising money for a brilliant charity. So please go to justgiving.com/page/save our seniors. We won't let pensioners freeze to death this winter. Let's get the thoughts of my wonderful panel this evening. I am joined by Dame Andrea Jenkins. I've also got Benjamin Butterworth. I've got the former chairman of the Tory party as well, Sir Jake Berry. Dame Andrea, I'll start with you on this. I mean, this to me seems absolutely astonishing that Labour MPs could vote to freeze pensioners to death in their own homes and then try and wash it away by becoming an age champion.
It's ludicrous. I mean, while our pensioners are going to be dying from hypothermia, I think they're hoping that they get selective amnesia and that they forget that they've actually voted this way. I mean, I actually used the Age UK petition myself. I got hundreds and hundreds of signatures in my old constituency because, you know, I came out of retirement just to really fight for our pensioners. And I think it's great what you're doing, Patrick. But to me, what I imagine's happened, I don't know if you feel this, Jake, I feel that Labour's seen that they're behind in the polls. I bet they've got onto the phone to Age UK. Can you help us out?
I mean, one of the things, I'll come to you on this, but look, I don't want to give Age UK a kicking, right, because they're a charity and they do a lot of great work, and I don't think that that's the right thing to do, OK? I think that the Labour MPs are using this. I mean, how can you vote against something and then and be a champion for a charity whose existence at the moment is to try to reverse the cut on the winter fuel payment?
Well, Age UK have got an opportunity. They can reverse their position. I actually think that they should be held to account by GBNews because, first of all, their big campaign is to get people to sign the petition against winter fuel cuts, £1,500 being taken away from pensioners over this Parliament. Over 500,000 people have gone to that website, signed the petition, have shown how passionate they are about this. I think it's an absolute disgrace for them then to lob a load of MPs on as age champions when they've behaved in this way. If Age UK really is in the business of defending the rights of pensioners, it should be holding these MPs to account, not giving them the opportunity to run away from their own voting record.
OK, well, I put it to you, Ben, that you look at Mark Seward, a guy who voted to allow pensioners to freeze to death this winter, becoming an age champion, saying he's going to fight for them in Parliament. He had a chance to fight for them, and he protected his own career over the lives of pensioners in his own constituency.
Well, although Mr Seward had a worthy opponent in the constituency, I know he's a very honourable person, and
he's not that honourable.
An excellent job.
I would say that this is
standing up for the elderly.
Dishonourable.
And his wife works for Rachel Reeves, by the way.
Oh, really?
I tell you who's not honourable. I think you're not honourable in that monologue. I think that is dangerous scaremongering to suggest that people are going to freeze to death because of this change.
Labour's own report.
That's not
Labour's
correct.
That
was on a different terms than it was many years ago.
Says 4,000
how can it be?
What, and has the price of fuel gone up or down since 3 years ago?
Given that pensions went up by £900 earlier this year and £400 next April, pensioners have more money in their pocket this winter than last winter. So saying that they're suddenly not going to be able to afford winter fuel bills that they could do last year is misleading and wrong.
Well, it's not, because the fuel cap went up 10%.
What you're doing is terrifying people sat at home, the pensioners, you're being terrified by what you're doing because you're whipping up that fear.
Benjamin, I speak to pensioners and have done at least once or twice a week since I launched this fundraiser, and let me tell you, I am not the one scaring them. Keir Starmer is scaring them. Their fuel bills are scaring them. I mean, do you think we should be getting some kind of apology here from Mark Seward? Do you think he should not be an age champion?
Absolutely, and if you actually go on his social media, it gets even worse, Patrick, because Age UK, the local Labour council, and he is holding this surgery to try and help pensioners now.
Yeah.
But what are you saying? Are you saying that somehow these Labour MPs shouldn't do anything else with these charities or on these topics because of that?
I think, Benjamin, we are pointing out that they're complete and utter hypocrites. That's the point about this. But also, it's not all about winter fuel payment. Because, of course, we don't really talk about this as much, but probably we should. Immediately following the announcement of winter fuel payment, the Labour Party abolished the cap on elderly care. So that was capped at 86,000. They've now removed that in its entirety, meaning that if you suffer from Alzheimer's or some sort of degenerative disease and go into a home, they can now come and take the entire value of your home away. And let's not forget, in just over a week's time, they're going to, as I read in the papers, be attacking people by putting up inheritance tax. They're going to be putting up, allegedly, capital gains tax, which disproportionately affects the elderly because they tend to have owned assets for a long time.
This is just gone from, they're all struggling, they can't pay their bills,
to, they've got
so many assets, the tax rise will affect them.
I don't know why they're doing it, is determined to beat up pensioners. The real question I'd love to put to Mr. Sewers, sorry. The real question I'd love to put is, why do you and your government hate pensioners
Absolutely.
so much? Why every opportunity do you rip benefits away from them, tax them to death? What have they ever done to you? Except probably not vote Labour at the last election. That's what it's all about, let's be honest.
There is serious generational inequality in this country. 27% of retirees are worth £1 million or more. The rate of poverty...
So you want to punish all pensioners?
The rate of relative poverty is higher among millennials than it is among retirees. What we are doing in this country, the winter fuel allowance was an obscene misuse of state money. To take from working people on low salaries, barely able to rent a property, and take that money and give it to the elderly, who are largely wealthy.
They're not largely wealthy.
In the last 14 years, most wealth gain in this country has gone to retirees. It is a myth that they are all freezing at home, and no serious country
I don't recall you making this argument when Gordon Brown introduced the winter fuel payment.
When Gordon Brown introduced the winter fuel payment, the rates of poverty among the elderly were in a completely different proportion.
But Benjamin, pensioners are genuinely scared. I mean, our email address is open till the 4th. Yours is the 4th of November as well, isn't it? And I've had hundreds and hundreds of emails from pensioners saying, Andrea, please help. We know you're not the MP. We're scared. And they are genuinely scared about what Keir Starmer and this Labour government have done to them.
Well, I tell you who first suggested it when she ran for leader last time. Kemi Badenoch.
I think we'll have to wait and see.
Labour enacted.
We'll have to wait and see what happens this winter. But I think it's absolutely astonishing that you have a procession here of Labour MPs who could vote to cut the winter fuel payment and then try and cover that up by saying, we're an age champion. You had your chance to stand up for the elderly and you chose not to. And I think the disrespect they've shown those elderly people, thinking that they can be bought off by saying, you're an age champion, I'm fighting for you in Parliament, when they will not feel that when their bills go up this winter and they're having to wrap a coat on in their own living rooms. It's a disgrace. Just to say as well, I know you do really care about the pensioners, and I know you do really care about people being cold in their own homes this winter, which is why I am doing this fundraiser for Friends of the Elderly, and it's justgiving.com/page/save our seniors. I am doing a proper challenge this Saturday, which you're going to be hearing a lot more about over the course of the week, so I'll be hammering that, but thank you very much.